Welcome to Resilience 101, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope that this turns out to be a short course that's going to help all of us to develop some new skills, more resilience that we can put into action anytime we want it, especially right now, perhaps during this pandemic. If you'd like my notes, I am happy to share them. All you have to do is go to my website, www.couchstories.com. There's a drop-down menu where you can contact Dr. M, and I'm happy to send you this full set of notes free of charge. I just want you to have them if they will help. So if we've learned anything during the pandemic, it is that life sure doesn't come with a crystal ball or a roadmap or a blueprint that predicts the future with certainty. With or without the pandemic, all of us inevitably experience curveballs, turns and twists and surprises and things that we weren't expecting that make us feel uncomfortable and that bring up unwelcome feelings that we would like to avoid, but that we can't avoid. And those softer words like twists and turns and curveballs, honestly, I don't think they quite hold up when the circumstances are as serious or as shocking as the pandemic, or the death of a loved one, or losing your job and financial hardships, or serious physical or emotional illness, or an accident that is life-altering, like falling down a flight of stairs like happened to me and lands you in a wheelchair with a spinal cord injury. Those kinds of traumatic experiences and any number of the difficult struggles that we have in life, they have a much more lasting impact on our lives and on our futures. So whether it's temporary or whether it's one of those more serious, long-lasting situations, each of us gets affected in our own personal different way whenever we're the ones that are experiencing that flood of emotions, flood of thoughts, and so much uncertainty that comes over us at a time like that. And yet, I bet you would agree that almost all of us adapt pretty well to struggles when they come up in life. Well, that's due in part to our resilience, even if we get thrown off and we struggle for quite a while. So what exactly is resilience? I mean, how do you define it? As I was preparing for this presentation today, I was reminded of a time when I was new to having my own spinal cord injury. I was in a special hospital where nearly everyone there had just experienced the same kind of thing that I was going through. We all had spinal cord injuries. Everybody was in a wheelchair for the first time in their lives. Everybody had heard this terrible news about their future. Everybody was worried that they weren't ever going to walk again. And they put us all in a circle in this room, and the therapist came in, and the first thing that he said was, "Welcome to Spinal Cord Injury Support Group. If you were not someone who was flexible and adaptable before your spinal cord injury, well, today would be a good day for you to start developing those skills." Resilience is the process of developing those skills to adapt well to a tragedy or a threat or any of these struggles that I listed earlier. And like so many things in life, when it comes to resilience, I've got good news and bad news. And if you're like me, you want the bad news first. So the bad news is being resilient doesn't mean that you can bypass those uncomfortable feelings, those distress emotions that no doubt are going to come up because of the difficult situation that you're dealing with. In fact, when these situations happen to us, we often experience a great deal of emotional pain before we begin to notice our resilience starts to kick in and our emotions improve. So resilience starts with radical acceptance. That means you say to yourself, all right, this is happening. I can't change that fact. And it makes me feel really bad. So now let me see if there's anything that I can do about it to improve my situation. And right there is the good news. The good news about resilience is that it can be learned. And basically, Everybody has some of it. Resilience is common. It is not rare because nearly everything in our being, in our makeup, is hardwired to help us survive, to learn, and to become better at survival the next time we get stressed out. So again, resilience isn't something that some people have and others do not. Now, that's true. Some people may be more resilient than others or better at it, but everybody's got some. Even people who consider themselves to be super resilient actually can lose sight of their inner strength when they're the ones that are in the middle of a struggle and they're the ones that are feeling the pain. I mean, just recently, I think of myself as kind of an expert in resilience, if you will. I think of resilience as my superpower, given everything that I've been through. But recently, between the pandemic, my spouse having open heart surgery, losing my business when my office had to close down in March and I wasn't seeing any patients anymore and had zero income, and then last but not least, losing my sister to complications of COVID, I was pretty overwhelmed for a while, and I did not feel very resilient for a short period of time, and I very quickly had to put some of the skills that I'm going to be talking with you about over these coming days into action. But I had to go look them up. I have a journal that I kept, and it was a very helpful reminder to me when I needed those reminders the most. Okay, so resilience is the sum of a number of behaviors and thoughts and actions that can be learned and can be developed by everyone. And before I go on any further, I want to underline one of those words: action. Action is going to be your best friend when it comes to being resilient. Not doing anything is what leads to experiencing anxiety, depression, feelings of hopelessness and helplessness. But taking an action, any action on some, even a small aspect of the situation that is in your control, anything at all, has a very powerful effect on the way you think, on your mood, on your motivation, on your outlook, and on your ability to grow and become more resilient. So always take some action anytime you're struggling. And more often than not, it's going to take a series of small actions that kind of build on each other. And occasionally some big actions too, if I'm going to be honest. And then over time, we figure out how to overcome our most recent struggle, and we emerge on the other side of it stronger and even more resilient before the next time we need to adapt to one of those curveballs that life throws at us. And this happens over and over. Time after time, we grow through each one of our struggles and we become more resilient. Resilience is cumulative. We keep developing so that we become empowered to improve our lives every time something new and difficult happens. Developing resilience is a lot like building new muscle or healing a muscle after an injury, for example. If you've ever done any weightlifting or if you've ever had an injury and you had to go to physical therapy, you know that when you've done a lot of rigorous exercise or a lot of rigorous physical therapy, you're going to be exhausted and you're going to feel kind of sore. Your muscles may be real tender for a while after you've done some weightlifting. Some people really do not like that soreness. I mean, I gotta be honest, when I was in physical therapy after my spinal cord injury and I had to use my upper body in a whole new way than I was used to since my legs no longer worked, I hated it. It was really, really uncomfortable. And now that I have built up in strength, I'm exercising more regularly, I go to the gym with my personal trainer and get more exercise, I have noticed that I think the soreness is a good thing because it reminds me that my muscles are getting stronger, the tissue's breaking down, they're rebuilding, and over time, I'm going to be able to lift more and more weight and function much better. So to summarize, resilience is something that everybody's got. Everybody can learn, and if they put in the time and a lot of exercise and focus on these 4 keys of resilience, you can develop resilience too. What are the 4 keys? The 4 keys are relationships, physical and emotional wellness, healthy thinking, and purpose. When I announced Resilience 101, I promised that there wasn't going to be any tests, but I never told you there wasn't going to be any homework. And there should be a little bit of homework because, like I said, resilience takes time, effort, and focus to develop. Those words kind of all add up to sound a bit like homework, don't they? Okay, so if you happen to have a small notebook at home, I would really like for you to begin keeping a resilience journal. It doesn't have to be fancy. Even if you take a few pieces of, typing paper and staple them together, that'll do. So that all through the week when you're listening to these presentations, it may cause you to scan your life. It may bring up some of the memories of a struggle that you have faced. Maybe you can write those things down so that you'll have access to them. I mean, generally, I'm not that all excited about looking backwards, but in this particular instance, it may be a good thing for you to take a look back over some of the struggles that you have faced in the past in your life so that you can prepare two lists. And that's the homework for tonight. I want you to think about things that you've done in the past that really didn't work very well. Maybe it's drinking too much alcohol. Maybe it's staying in bed all day. Maybe it's fighting with your family members. Maybe it's overeating. Ugh, I have to admit that happens to be mine. At the beginning of the pandemic, I gained 10 pounds because I was baking sourdough bread 3 times a week. That was not sustainable. So now I had to get back on my program, lose that weight. I'm finally back where I was in March. So sometimes these coping strategies that we employ, not only do they not help, but they can make matters worse. The second list that I want you to consider when you're looking back on some of your previous struggles is take a look at what are the things that actually did work. Maybe it was getting into therapy. Maybe it was calling on a friend. Maybe it was developing a meditation practice. Maybe it was physical exercise. Whatever it is, you probably know because you know yourself best. Write down the things that you know helped. I hope that you're going to come back again every day this week. I will be talking about many of the details about developing those 4 keys so that by the end of the week, you might have a personal blueprint actually in your journal to help you develop resilience right in your own home that you can put into action right now. I'll see you tomorrow.